Welcome to Cloudy Reviews. We will be doing a read through and discussion of The Eye of the World, Book 1 2.
The Wheel of Time. So we will have spoilers as we go through this, but we hope that you'll read beforehand and join us for a great discussion.
So join us on this journey. I'm Jesse.
And I'm Christy.
Here we will go over the prologue. The first time I read this story, I got so intimidated by it. There was so much talk. I didn't know the verbiage. I didn't know what was going on. It was just, here, jumping in a pot of boiling water. You're in it.
And that's totally what I felt like you had thrown me in. Intimidating is a perfect word. I was like, I'm not going to be able to keep up with this book. I have no idea who these people are or what's happening.
So we start off, and our character, Lewis Theron, is walking through the halls of this grand mansion. There's rubble everywhere. There are dead bodies everywhere. He keeps calling for his wife, Elena.
And
then as he's walking and calling, stepping over bodies, we have another figure up here. He called for Lewis Theron, and there are a lot of talk where you could tell he doesn't like the guy.
And I think it's really interesting that when he's written in, and this is Ishmael, when Ishmael comes in, Robert Jordan has written him in all black. And that was probably the easiest thing for me to understand about the prologue because, boom, I knew he was the bad guy. If it had been a Western, he'd been wearing a big black hat. So now we've got our dichotomous characters. Obviously, if Ishmael is going to be our bad guy, then Lewis Theron would be our good guy. And we've got an extraneous character in Ilyana. And all around him, we've got this crumbling palace.
I think at this time we only know the guy as Elan. He's starting to say a name. Once I was known as Elan, but now, and that when Lewis Theron was like betrayer of hope. And this dude watching Lewis Theron walk around over a dead loved ones is like, yeah, I embrace my names. After this day, they'll call you Kinslayer. You just killed everybody you love. Will you embrace your name?
And he does this really great thing. I think Robert Jordan, obviously everyone knows him as this incredible builder of worlds, but he also was just a beautiful writer. His prose is just gorgeous. And one of the most profound things I think about the prologue is when an Ishmael, but you're saying we don't know his name yet, the denier of hope.
Betrayer of
hope.
Yeah.
However we know him.
He called himself Elan Morin Teteran. I'm not even going to try to say that. But part of what intimidated me when I began.
Right? Yeah, that is not Jim Bob. So regardless of what we know him as, he has very great or some really great lines in the prologue where he says, who has done this? It was not my hand. And he again over and over says it was not my hand. It's sort of a repetition.
He really wrote in some passion there with it. And I've read this series a couple of times, then I switched to audiobooks, and the Michael Kramer, Kate Redding does a phenomenal job. All right. So he's just talking to Lewis Theron, like you're saying, and he tells Lewis Theron, looking at this guy who seems like he's mentally unstable, lost it, not there, you're not seeing the bodies. So look, at one time you stood first among servants, you wore a certain ring. I still don't know what the ring was or is, and he's just like, he wanted to kill him. You feel the hatred, but the hatred is so deep, he will not kill him without him knowing who's doing it. And he says something about, I wish one of your sisters were here to heal you, but you probably would just kill them. So he said it's a little harsher form of healing. He followed a different master. A little talk about Shaitan. I'm like, who is that? But you could kind of guess that dark figure, dark lord, devil type thing. But he heals them, and then Lewis Theron kind of see what he has done.
Yeah, I mean, regardless of how you felt about Lewis Theron, I think anybody And the betrayer of hope's position would be like, what's with this guy? He is not taking a responsibility for what's happening around him. And once he does, it just kind of goes haywire from there.
And it's the typical thing we see in movies and stories. The bad guy tells the evil plan and get demolished. He should have just killed him there, but he healed him. Louis Theron realized what going off, and they don't even fight. Louis Theron kind of just disappears, travels or something. I can't remember the verbiage, but end up going to like a nice flat plains and pulls in so much of the one power the world's warps and a huge mountain take form where he's at. They call it Dragon Mount.
And then there's also an island created. So this is where I'm like, are we doing a creation story? Because he talks about how the 8 peoples of the world are then scattered to the corners of the world, and automatically I'm going, okay, Tower of Babel. So I think we're doing sort of a creation type story. But then in the very next excerpt, because the prologue ends with 2 excerpts, and the second one sort of sets it up like, well, there were obviously already people here because Louis Theron was here, and you've got the betrayer of hope, and he talks about his 100 other people as
100
well,
companions.
So obviously we're not doing a whole creation thing, but he talks about how now the world is sort of regressed into this state where plants don't grow and knowledge is lost and etc. So then I kind of get the feel that we're doing like a fall of the Roman Empire kind of thing, and they're introducing us to the dark ages that are going to follow that. But within that, he also refers to the dragon being reborn, and then we get to, okay, well, the Messiah and waiting on the Messiah. So there's so many overtones that I think you could see religious passages in, but you could also look to history alone and see parallels as well.
And that's a great point. You talk about when he talking to Louis Theron, he tells them that even as they were speaking, his 100 companions, Louis Theron companions, were perceived to be the good guys, were destroying the world. And every day 100 more join them. He talks about when Louis Theron sealed the Dark One away, that Shaitan figure, that Shaitan counterstroke. Is that what's going on with Louis Theron?
And I'm going, I don't know, through the whole prologue. So I've got all these ideas, all these things that I'm thinking, is this happening? But there's nothing to really show me. At this point, all I know is it's going to be a battle between good and evil. That's been pretty clear. And I also know that this mountain and this island have been created when Louis Theron kind of loses it. And it's pretty clear that those two physical features are going to be important.
You might not know what's going on when you read it, but stick with it. This is an amazing story. Robert Jordan is the best world builder ever, in my opinion. But believe one thing, every piece of info in that prologue, you will come back to it sooner or later. Except for the ring thing. I'm still... There are a couple of things where Elan was saying that Louis Theron wore the ring or something, held a rod. I'm still kind of lost on that. Maybe on this reread through, we might pick up something, because every time I listen to it, I still catch up to something. I'm probably in my 20s on times going through this series.
Learn something new every time.
All right, well, we'll stop our discussion on the prologue there, and let's read Chapter 1 to talk about it. Chapter 1, An Empty Road. So all these books start out with a very similar first chapter, and it's a very beautifully written, got a very elegant feel to it. And probably my favorite part of the first chapter paragraph in every book is it talks about a wind. A wind rose up in the mountains of mist. The wind was not the beginning. There are neither beginnings nor endings to the turning of the wheel, but it was a beginning.
So let's start with our beginning. So this empty road is actually not really that empty, because we've got our main character, Randall Thor, joined with his dad, Tam, horse Bella, who becomes one of my favorite characters.
Everybody loves Bella.
And they're riding, or actually, they're not riding, are they?
They're walking. Got Bella pulling a little cart with some apple brandy and some other goods. They live way out in the woods, the west woods to be exact, of the two rivers, and they're on their way to Eamon's Field for
Beltane Festival, which I thought was really interesting because Beltane is actually a thing from the ancient Celts. So I like the way that Robert Jordan creates so many things in his world, but then he weaves in ideas that we find throughout our own world as well.
And we have seen Beltane in another story we started doing a little podcast on too, which was very neat.
Mm-hmm. That's when I was first like, wait, is this a real thing?
Mm-hmm. You did a great job running that down. All right, so they're on this road and they're talking about wolves and stuff and how Tim will rather be at home, but he's a man of his word. He said he was going to have it there. By God, he's going to have it there. You get that real sense that Tim is it got to be done, so let's get it done type of guy. Solid, steadfast man. Well, Rand walking, you get a little sense that they're not alone. He's turns around and he sees a figure in black. Look like the black horse. A lot of people going to hate this, but every time I picture this guy, I think of one of the ring greats from Lord of the Ring movies, and that is how I picture him to the T.
Well, I just think again the symbolism of the color black. He's letting us know that this isn't a friendly guy. This isn't like his bestie meeting him.
Rand ended up bringing up the town attention. When he turns back, they look, poof, the guy's gone, no trace.
And I think it's a great example of foreshadowing. We're going to get all these instances throughout the book where you get just a little hint of something and then poof, you don't hear about it again for a bit.
Well, kind of odd to Rand because we had that wind blew down and it was stirring Rand cloak, but it didn't stir the figure in black cloak at all. So you got real bad vibes feel from the guy. Tam didn't see him, but Tam, being the solid guy he is, was like, well, let's go see if they're hoof prints. And Rand kind of like, I don't know if had a bit of not wanting to know or just want to get gone or don't want to look dumb, but kind of talks Tam down like, no, let's just go. You're right. Probably just mind playing tricks on me. So they keep on keeping on. All right, and they start making their way into Eamon's Field. And what exactly are the women doing?
Well, again, Beltane. They're getting ready for Beltane. They've already finished their spring cleaning, and they're setting up what seems to be pretty much a maypole. Beltane is a spring celebration, so that works in really well with that.
And Tam kind of, like all the guys, act like they're the women not doing nothing over there. They're going to wake up the next morning, act surprised, like up all of a sudden. And we find out Tam is widowed, and he is like the Two Rivers' most eligible bachelor. They're kind of like setting a pace to get where they're going and try to avoid getting roped into conversation because all the women got somebody they want to hook them up with, and they all want to know, well, Rand, you're getting about that age too.
And I think it's really telling that that Tam is such an eligible bachelor because it sort of brings back that stoic, steadfast figure. Like he's a pillar of the community.
We end up meeting a couple of people as they get into town, and we get the setting set for certain characters throughout this series as they're making their way to the Wine Spring Inn, which is the only inn in the Two Rivers, and that which is also the mayor's house. They live at it, and Rand's love interest
Miss Egwene
is is the mayor's daughter.
But before we get to her, we meet Sin Bowie. Quite the character.
Well, there are a couple families in the Two Rivers. They are like kind of frowned upon. They always got bad attitudes, and you think when I think of them, I think I probably don't grass growing up. They got junk piles in their yard, lounging around, drinking. Congers and the Copelands.
Yes.
Those are the two families that are kind of like the black sheep of the town, always in the middle of trouble, got negative to say. Tam and Rand, they get up to the Wine Spring Inn, then Sam Bowie appears.
And he is a little old man with his little old walking stick that's described as just as gnarled as he is. And he might be small, but he has lots of personality.
He has a lot of nothing to say about everything kind of guy. Naive, we understand the town wisdom. We really don't know what all going on with that at this point, but she's far too young to be a wisdom.
Sin is kind of one of those old guys that you can't help but kind of chuckle at because he's never got anything nice to say, but it's just such a little tirade that it always ends up being funny to me.
Ornery old man. And a big discussion going on about this being women's circle business and weather. And then we hear a psst, Rand, I got a badger. All ornery being pulled out of the den. I'm going to let it loose on the circle of scared girls. Enter one of my favorite characters, Matt Cawthon.
Trouble from the moment he comes in.
And Rand kind of telling me, said, look, I need to help my dad unload and all this. He ran raised by Tam, and he's a chip off the old block, taking after his father. Need to get his job done.
But Matt's like, man, I'd rather be playing stones with my little sisters than doing this work. Come on, let's get out of here while they're arguing.
Oh, arguing ended a little too soon, and Tam's seen Matt.
Matt's caught.
Yep. Whoa, and Matt, I'm sure you don't mind helping Rand unload.
And he's like, oh, my dad sent me on some chores. And Tam just always one-ups, like, I'm sure, being the responsible young man you are, you've already got your chores done.
Man, I love some Tam. But at the heart of it, Matt is a little troublemaker, Mr. I'm here for a good time, but he will take care of his friends. So he started helping Rand unload.
He's not happy about it, though. And one of his last things that he says is, come on, you're not on the village council yet. Where did that come from? What's he talking about, Rand on the village council?
Rand, just like Tam, only way everybody respects him.
And I think that's a great instance of foreshadowing, too. Because we see right off the bat that, there's a lot to this kid. People are already talking about he's going to be going places.
Well, we'll end chapter 1 there. That's about the gist of chapter 1. We will be right back after this quick commercial break.
Do you know what time it is? That's right, it's bell time. Come on out this Saturday for singing and dancing at the spring pool.
Chapter 2, Strangers.
So in chapter 2, we pick up with Rand and Matrim unloading the wagon. As they work their way through the inn, they pass by members of the village council, one of which was Master Luhan the blacksmith. As they get into a back room, Matt informs Rand they think Luhan suspects him. Rand immediately asks, for what? Good old Matt is like, nothing really, just kind of shrugs. Rand, they just told some of the local kids that farmer has seen ghost hounds breathing fire running through the woods. They covered 2 Luhan dogs in flour to make them white.
But wait. Who was Scratch? Do you remember Scratch?
Yeah.
You remember Scratch in this one? Scratch was, and I think that the cat shows a really cool thing about Robert Jordan's writing. Because the cat, not a main character, right? Not going to care about the cat a lot more. But he takes such care and time with his writing that even this little side, would you call it character? this little cat that you're really not going to hear from again even gets a name. It's not just like the orange tabby. I mean, he's so careful that the cat even gets a name. And I think that's a really cool demonstration of how careful he is in his world building.
How detailed he is. You're going to love him or hate him for that. A lot of people don't like how detailed his world building is. I love it.
Me too. Agreed. Proceed.
Well, he covered the dogs in flour, make them white, and let them loose near one kid's house. And good old Matt is like, how was I supposed to know they would have run straight home?
Because that's what dogs do.
Yeah. If Mrs. Luhan wouldn't have left the door open, they wouldn't have ran inside the house. Like it wasn't his fault. Her fault. She left the door open.
I mean, really? Like, you're a lot like Matt.
Nah.
Nothing's ever your fault. It's always somebody else's.
Well, let's keep it about the book.
Okay.
He didn't intend to get flour all over the house. He wanted people to think they were the fabled ghost hounds of the Great Hunt.
Yeah. That truly is a great demonstration, or whatever you want to call it, of Matt's character. Like, he does a lot of growing in the books, but really, that core characteristic kind of stays the same.
I agree. I love his character.
That's still debatable.
Matt, no, not debatable. I love his character.
Well,
That's
I mean,
a fact.
For me, a little debatable.
Matt laughs that Mrs. Luhan chased him and the dogs out, and you gotta think the blacksmith, a big old boy, but Mrs. Luhan is kind of known for being kind of big herself and a little meaner. He notes that she's almost as strong with a worse temper. So we have started getting the real sense of Matt between the badger prank and the ghost hounds debacle.
He's kind of always in trouble. Well, that's debatable.
He has a good heart, I do believe. Well, Matt and Rand, they make their way outside, and a smaller boy comes up. I don't know why, but he's kind of doubting Matt's words over a gleeman.
Because you can't believe a word that comes out of Matt's mouth.
So is Matt the boy that cried wolf? Always joking around and nobody believes him?
No, that boy is way more dependable than Matt.
And the boy mentioned strangers, but he never saw no ghost hounds, he throws out. And Rand and Matt about came outside their skin thinking about the man in black, asking the boy, was he in black?
Yeah, but poor little, Ewan?
I can't remember his name.
It's Ewan, it's something. Ewan Finnegan?
He's just a very minor character.
Well, anyway, he wasn't even talking about the man that they had seen with the immobile cloak.
Yeah, that boy doesn't know nothing about that. He's like, nah, this is a fancy lady, like from the story, and a man in a color-shifting cloak with a sword on his back.
That moves like one of his appendages.
He must be in service, and a high-born lady. We hear a tidbit over Moraine meeting Nynaeve and calling her a child. Now, this is kind of going to be a ongoing thing. We are getting a sense of Nynaeve being viewed as too young, and she has a real issue with that viewing of her. We hear about the infamous temper of her, and Moraine making amends, a little apology for calling her a child, asking some questions over herbs, and who around the village, specifically over certain ages, how long they've lived there, fishing for some information maybe?
Oh, 100%. And I don't know if that's really a good thing for outsiders to be doing right when they come in.
Very true. All of a sudden, Rand gets a sense he is being watched and notices a raven watching him from the roof. Well, him and Matt both grab some rocks and chuck it at it. Raven just kind of sidesteps, avoiding the rocks. And then a lady voice speaks up. The Lady Moraine, that is. She speaks on how vile ravens are, and the bird shrieked and flapped away like a little flappy bird.
And why are they so vile? What are they supposed to emulate?
Well, I think they're just throughout history kind of viewed as carrion eaters and dark. Always had a sense of death around ravens and crows. And
why don't they just call them scavengers? Why do we go with carrion eaters?
yeah, to be honest, I think it just sounds cooler.
I don't know. I kind of like scavengers because I'm like, oh, now I understand what they're talking about.
Well, Rand kind of thinks on how she looked as young as Nynaeve. There we go again with a remark about Nynaeve's age. And at the same time, way older looking. Something about her eyes, a look of wisdom. We are seeing a pattern over Nynaeve's youth for sure. Rand notices that she is dressed to impress. No one in the Two Rivers ever dressed like that. From the fine dress to the chain in her hair that dangles a small blue stone on her forehead.
But I don't think Moraine would say that she was dressed to impress. I mean, that's how they see her.
Yeah, this is a little podunk town. Little, I guess you could call them hillbilly, maybe. Not really, but country. Way out. She even has a ring of a serpent biting its own tail. He remarks that that's an old symbol, as old as the will itself.
Older.
Well, she get talking a little bit, and she pass a coin to Matt, Rand, and the little lad.
Ewan.
You too. But they say she might have a task here and there. She'll go ahead and pay them, and when she walks off.
Yeah, you should never pay anybody up front.
Hard lessons. Well, when she walks off, the boy speaks up, a silver penny. Just imagine what he could buy when the peddler comes. Then Rand and Matt kind of look at theirs. They got a thick gold piece.
Way cooler.
Oh, gold, right?
Yeah, Tarvalin
gold. He noticed that he watched the mayor weigh gold out before and got a sense for how much it's worth. Moraine mentions she's there for stories and remarks on the history that can be found just about anywhere.
And they're a little shocked because it's just the Two Rivers. Whatever happens there, not nothing.
Well, after she walks away, well, they heard some shouting coming from about the bridge, and everything from the old to the young was escorting a wagon across the bridge. The peddler has finally arrived. It was going to be the best of times. We had strangers, a gleeman, fireworks, and a peddler. It was going to be the best bell time ever. We'll be back after this quick commercial break.
Traveling is thirsty work, so stop by the Wine Spring Inn and grab some of Althor's apple brandy. It's as sweet as the Wine Spring.
Chapter 3, The Peddler. So a peddler is a traveling merchant that usually has a wagon laden full of goods going from town to town. They will be viewed as a big deal because towns like this typically do not have a Walmart.
And really, the peddler isn't only responsible for bringing goods. He brings knowledge and news and stuff that the people in the Two Rivers in their isolated state really don't get a lot of.
And I think we're going to see a good bit of that here. So we got them coming up, and people will tend to flock to them because they want to make sure they get the good books or stuff might be in short supply, or as Christy said, what news is he bringing? And our peddler name is Padden Fane. They note he is pale, skinny, with a massive beak of a nose.
Sounds handsome.
Now, they note that he's always smiling, laughing, and Rand, while he's waiting on the peddler to start giving news, we have another character appears, Perrin Abara.
Oh, I've got something I totally want to bring up about Perrin.
And Perrin is one of Rand's best friends. You got Rand, Matt, and Perrin, the three best friends anyone could ever have.
And Perrin's going to be like one of my favorite characters the whole series.
So what we learn, he is an apprentice blacksmith. He is a massive guy, just huge. but he's very aware of how strong he is. He takes his time moving through crowds, doesn't want to hurt anyone. He's
Kind of reminds me of a pit bull. Well, actually, they're never aware of how big they are, but like the way people see them is a lot different than their personalities.
very much so. Well, I mean, just like all, I guess, case by case basis. We don't want to.
Or
You can't judge everything. I don't want nobody to hear this and think they can walk up to any pit bull because any dog bite. That's how they eat. So Perrin, he is half a head shorter than Rand with curly hair, and he is a man and a half wide. And this width is not jelly. Dude is swole. And they get talking over the Gleeman that is coming and all the news of everything been going on.
Okay, and I don't want to do a spoiler, but like, I gotta point this out because in the last chapter, chapter 2, when we're introduced to Lan, our author actually makes Rand give a comparison between Lan and a wolf. And obviously, he's a fantastic author, so not like I'm telling him how to do his job or anything, but I think it would have been so cool if he had held that little piece of personification and threw it in this chapter, and Rand had compared Perrin to a wolf.
I think at this point, I would think of him more as a bear. But we'll see how the story unfolds.
Yeah, I just think it would have been a cool little piece of foreshadowing. That's all.
Yeah, we'll see how the story unfolds. So one key part of this, Rand is thinking on how just last year Fane took note of some of the younger guys, Perrin, Matt, and himself, and he really hopes he stays a man in his eyes and taken seriously, not put back at the kiddie table. So Fane took note of him last year.
But Fane is like a stage. Like, he loves the stage. The world is a stage. Not obviously not a gleeman, but he likes some attention.
He's not a gleeman, but they state he will not be happy to learn a gleeman is here to steal some of his thunder.
Yeah, and Rand stole a little bit of that thunder, and I thought a pretty comedic way, because it was very not Rand's personality. Like, it would have been more Matt trying to steal somebody's thunder, I think, but Rand kind of fell into it.
What exactly are you talking about? What did Rand do?
Well, the three guys are there hanging out, chatting, talking, but like, they're not the only ones there with Potter and family. Everybody in town's there too, because everybody wants to buy something or hear something or see something. Small town, not much going on. This is the main attraction right now. And so everybody's there, everybody's loud, and Rand's trying to talk over everybody. And then, while he said, stop or wait or something like that, I don't remember the exact phrase, do you? But basically just saying, don't go on. And he said it at the exact moment that the crowd went silent, because Pot and Fane was about to start talking. And so it came out sounding like he was telling Pot and Fane to stop.
All right, so all I can really think of, Matt, Rand, and Perrin, they're talking, and Perrin was like, is there really a gleeman, or are there really fireworks? And Rand was like, we'll talk after. We'll talk after. Wait.
That it was wait, yeah, not the stop. It was the wait. And then Pot and Fane was like, no, we'll do it now.
So Fane finally had it build to what he wanted.
And then Rand
the crowd. Then he started speaking over the troubles of the world, how they have had harsh winters and wolves attacks.
But the Two Rivers should not worry about wolves attacks, because there's way worse out there.
What could be worse? Men killing men. And I really love it. In the audiobook, man, they do such a great job on that.
Yeah.
One of my favorite lines in this book. And it's so minor. War is in Gilladon. So that's the big piece of news he's bringing to everybody. War. In this small town, it really doesn't know much of the outside world. I mean, probably like the sky is falling. But Fane, being a showman Christy was talking about, he kind of leaned into the mayor and whispers, in a way to carry to the whole crowd, the standard of the dragon has been raised. Men flock to oppose and to support. And you best believe that brought up some murmurs from the crowd.
Oh, and our favorite little angry old man's back.
Sin
Sinbui, that's it, yeah.
And we're getting murmurs at this point. People are calling that the Dark One is loose. And some speak up saying the Dark One is the dragon. Besides, it's a false dragon. How the dragon broke the world. Think back onto the intro with the whole Lewis Theron taking in the power, making it, but how thousands have died when false dragons have risen, how they are coming more and more often. Some of the lore is that when the real dragon comes, again, the world will end.
But I will say, what upset everybody was when Sinbui was like, but is he a false dragon? It definitely reminds me of like the Hindu belief in reincarnation, and the wheel turns, like everything keeps recycling. It's kind of a cool idea.
And as they're trying to figure out about this false dragon, Fane says one thing he does know for sure: he can channel.
So is he false?
Well,
Sinbui
he can
wants
wield
to
the
know.
power. And then we're back to the thing from like the intro. Men who can channel always go mad. Only women can touch the power. The women he speaks of is the Aes Sedai.
Yeah, Sinbui's not a big fan of them either.
Not many people are. They have quite a big view. Either you love them or hate them type feel, you know?
I don't think there's a whole lot in Emmons Field that would feel some love yet either.
Yeah, very true.
I think one thing is nobody really knows them, so it's kind of like an unknown entity.
So with all this knowledge being passed off, people getting out of hand, the mayor grabbed the village council. They're like, hey, Fane, you got to come with us, bud. We need to talk in private.
Yeah, they should have done that when he first pulled in and started talking about men killing men.
And then we get our three young lads, Rand, Perrin, and Matt, get back together, start talking, and we start hearing some more stories about naming the Dark One and what kind of bad luck that brings. And just at that time, Nynaeve,
your favorite character.
We really should count hair pulls or something. Her character, I love to hate her.
Yeah, I didn't even know you loved it. I thought you just hated it.
I mean, some of the best characters are ones you hate,
or
bad ones that you kind of understand their point of view, you know? A little depth.
Well, I think that she totally is spot on with her introduction. The very first words that she says for the reader in the book is, "You are just that stupid, aren't you, Matrim Coffin?" And that is that's Nynaeve to a T. She does not mince words.
Yes, and she need to leave my buddy Matt alone.
Well, somebody needs to do something with that boy. But Nynaeve, she's got words like that for everybody.
And we got Egwene there with her, and we get a little bit about their appearance. Both of these lovely ladies have dark coloring. We learn Rand is 2 years older than Egwene.
I think the coloring is important because everybody in the Two Rivers is that dark coloring with the dark eyes.
Dark eyes, dark hair.
Except
Rand.
Our buddy Rand. Yeah.
And Rand, well, they're here with these two lovely ladies. He's kind of noticed something, having a little moment with Egwene, and he just think he does not have the way with ladies like Perrin does.
Or Matt's.
Well, at this time, he would name it Perrin.
Just Perrin.
And we start we see a little triangle between them coming up.
And that's one of my favorite parts of the book because it's so indicative of young people. I mean, not that I can speak as a young man, but certainly of young women, and so I'm assuming young men too. Like you never see yourself the way other people see you.
We all can feel awkward at times at that
Yeah.
young age or something. I still do. I mean,
Right.
she agrees.
Well, then we all feel that way.
Yeah, and we learn Egwene is in training under Nynaeve to be a wisdom. And there's a bit of a banter between Rand and Egwene about their future leaving the two rivers and marriage.
Yeah, and he was like, "Oh, you know, you don't have to get married just because you can." And Egwene's like, "Yeah, like you don't have to get married, period."
And we start seeing some of Egwene character. She's a bit of a firecracker with talks of dreams and travel. Like, she might really enjoy the idea of war and stuff, maybe more than the boys. Maybe not of killing, but she got a little excitement to her. Well, things were starting to get frustrating and starting to go downhill for Rand. Matt speaks up. That Perrin has seen
Save the
the
day.
rider and received a coin just like they did from Moraine. So far, only these three lads we know of has seen the Dark Rider, and Egwene jumps in asking what in the world are they yakking about. And should we get ready to really get into these guys? The door to the inn burst out, and a shaggy-haired man came running out.
Setting us right up for chapter 4. Sit tight, folks. This is a favorite.